Good morning, guys. I just wanted to take a quick moment and go over the worksheet that I asked you to try earlier this week, the one with the trig function review in midline. There was a few questions that some of you had about that, and there was a couple things that I wanted to review. So let's bring a picture of that up. I have it here. Oh, right here. Okay. So here is what it was. Okay, you had to identify true or false. You had to pick A, B, C, or D for those three, and then you had to match these. All right, so I'm actually going to work backwards. There was a question first about, let me get my drawing tool out. Let's draw in red. There was a question about number 19. And then I noticed something with number 20. All right, guys, I made a mistake. I put number 20 as the wrong answer in Google Docs. So the answer to number 20 should be the midline because it is a sine function. So sine function starts at the midline. I think I accidentally had it as the max value. That one was wrong. My apologies. Okay. Then, all right, so for the period, so we know that the frequency is this number, maybe, this number. Is it working? There we go. The frequency is that number right there, 1/10. All right, so any other time we've been doing these, so say for example, in this one, if the frequency was 6, we would take 360, divide it by 6 to get 60. So our period in this case would be 60. Okay. It's the same idea here. We're still going to take 360 and divide it by 1/10, but that's a pain in the butt. So if you remember that when you divide by fractions, it is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So now it turns into 360 over 1 times 10 over 1 because we did the reciprocal of this. So then that turns into 3,600. That's what we want. Okay, that is our period. Because our frequency is 1/10, it says that by the time we get to 360 degrees, we've only made 1/10 of a turn. So we went 360 degrees, we've only made 1/10 of a turn. We need another 360 degrees to now make 2/10 of a turn. We need another 360 degrees to now get to almost 3/10 of a turn. So we're going to keep doing that until we get all the way to 10/10 of a turn. That's 10 360s, which gets us to that. Okay? So hopefully we're doing okay there. All right, so now let's scroll back up because I think that is all the questions about that one. Oh, a lot of us got number 15 wrong. Oh, maybe I need to double check number 15. Number 15 is a cosine. That should start on the max value. I will double check that to make sure I click the right one since I did not for the other ones. But it's at a cosine, so it'll start at the max value. So that should be G. I'm going to write that down really quick to double check, make sure we have number 15 as letter G. Okay. Up here, I asked you to see if you could identify which of these graphs have a midline of negative 2.5. All right, so midline is new, but what I'm looking for is which of these 4 graphs does the middle of it go through negative 2.5? If I'm not sure exactly right now, I can do process of elimination and get rid of this one. Okay, so let's look at Y. Okay, let me erase that back out of the way really quick. Boop. Maybe. Erase. Go away. Maybe not. Let's try it this way. Okay. wanting to not cooperate with me. All right, let's just go back to my pen and we'll switch colors. All right, so we'll switch to blue. Okay, the midline of this graph, it's hard to see. There we go. All right, so the midline, so here's my graph right about here. Negative 2.5 is down here between negative 2 and 3. It is definitely not going through the middle of that graph right there. So that's why we can get rid of that one. All right, if you remember, one of the definitions that we had for midline was the average of the maximum and minimum value. That was the one that you looked up in the book. We can use that idea here. So let's try that. Let's try it with this one, okay? The maximum value is 0. That's what we're looking at, the Y value. Woo, there we go. The maximum Y value is 0. The minimum Y value, down here, my pointer's not working. I think my computer's doing silly things. But the negative, it's the minimum is at negative 3. So if I add those two together, I get negative 3. Since I want to find the average and I added two numbers together, let me divide by 2. So I get negative 1.5. That's the midline of this one. That's the midline, negative 1.5. That's not what we're looking for. So I could try this one. All right, so let's see. My maximum value looks like it is about negative 1.5. And my minimum value, because it's going to be the same minimum all the way across, it looks like it is about negative 4.5. There's a 5 in there somewhere. It's there. All right, when I add them together, there we go. When I add them together, I get negative 6. I'm going to divide that by 2. There's a 2 in there. That will give me negative 3. So it tells me that the midline of that graph is negative 3. Not what we're looking for. So really, if it's not this one and it's not this one, process of elimination tells me that it's going to be that one. Let's look at another one. Let's check out number 4 here. We are looking for one that has a midline of negative 3. Automatically, I can get rid of this one. Midline of negative 3 is all the way down here. It's not going through the middle of this graph. That's a big no-no, so we can get rid of that. I can also automatically get rid of letter C right here. Here's negative 3. That's not a midline. It looks like a maximum value of that. So I'm not even going to do any work for that. I'm going to get rid of that. So that leaves me A or D. Let's try letter A. I see that my maximum values are negative 2. I see that my minimum values are negative 4s. So I'm going to add them together to get negative 6. Because I'm doing an average of 2 values, I'm going to divide by 2, and that gives me negative 3. Awesome. That's exactly what we're looking for. So I know that here, my answer is letter A. Okay, I am going to load on some more questions just like numbers 3, 4, and 5 here, where I want you to identify the graph that has, oh, I'm sorry, 2 and 3. Nope, 3 and 4, that's one. I'm going to add on some just like this, where you're going to find the midline. And we're also going to, let's take a look at this one, because I'm going to give you some practice at this. Which of these sine graphs has an amplitude of 4? So remember, sine starts at the midline and goes up. Okay, starts at the midline and goes up, and it has an amplitude of 4. So that's how far up and down from the midline that we have to go. Okay, so really all the way from the very top of the graph, so let's just do a picture. If this is my midline And I know that I have to go up 4 and down 4 from there. That means this whole piece right here is 8 units. So I need to find something where the top and the bottom are 8 units away. All right, so if I look at that, let's look at this one. I start here at my y-axis and I go up. Okay, cool, that's what I need to do. I'm going up at the y-axis. I go up to 4 and I go down to 0. That doesn't give me an amplitude of 4 because I only went up 2. Okay, so I can get rid of that one. Same idea here. I'm starting at the midline. I'm starting and going up. Okay, I go up to 0 and I go down to -4. When I go from here up to the top, I only went 2. Not what do we want. Let's get rid of that one. All right, so let's try this one. I start here, start at my midline. On my y-axis, I'm at my midline, not trying to trick you. And I go up, I only go up to about 3.5, and I go down to about 4.5, -4.5. Okay, now let's see here. I don't know if that's what we want. Maybe that isn't my midline. Maybe my midline is here. Let's try this one. Sine graph, amplitude of 4. So let's see, my highest value, so we're doing this one right here. So let's check it. My largest value is 3.5. My lowest value is -4.5. Oops, add them together. I'm looking for the average, so I'm going to add, and I get -1. Going to divide by 2. So I get -0.5. So it tells me that my midline is right about there. Okay. Now, if I start here and go up to the top, did I go up 4 units? And if I start here and go down to the bottom, do I go down 4 units? Yes, I do. To go from -0.5 up to go from -0.5 up to +3.5, that's 4 units. And to go from -0.5 down to -4.5, that's also 4 units. That's what I want there. If we double check this one really quick, my highest value is 4, my lowest value is -6. If I add them together, I get -2. Divide by 2, I get -1. So it says right here is my midline at -1. To go from -1 down to 6, I went down 5. That's not 4. Okay. All right. One last way you can check this. Instead of finding the midline like we were over here, this was all finding the midline. What if we just find the distance between them? Distance. When I do the distance sounds a lot like difference. If I subtract, if I do 4 minus -6, that gives me 10. Remember, we're looking for a difference of 8. Up here, if I do 3.5 minus -4.5, minus a negative turns into a plus, that gives me 8. Woo! That's what we want right there. So that's why my answer is letter A. So I'm going to give you some more practice with these graphs today. Okay, go ahead, keep working on them. I know I got a lot of scribbles here. I'm going to make sure that I put in a little piece at the bottom of your answer sheet where you can ask a question. I'm looking at those. So that's an easy way that you can ask that, and then I'll come back to those when we do a review. All right, good luck, stay safe, wash your hands, and maybe take a walk outside and get some fresh air because it's kind of nice out today. All right, bye-bye.